it is 6:41 and time for a look at your forecast. First, let's take a look at the current conditions. Right now outside it's 65 degrees. The humidity is dropping a little bit at 75% now. Winds are southeast and the barometer is falling. Here's what you can expect today. A mixture of sunshine and clouds with an isolated late-day shower, high of 83. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a few showers possible, a low of 67. Tomorrow, mainly cloudy with a few showers or even thunder showers, a high of 83. Now let's take a peek at what Joe is calling for the rest of the week. Thursday, morning clouds and then partly cloudy with a high of 85. Friday, partly sunny and warm with a high of 88. Saturday, partly sunny and warm with a high of 89. Time right now for another check on your rush hour with Neil Spence. Neil?
Michelle, the accident on the Boulevard of the Allies cleared near the intersection of Gamonville. Of course, traffic still slow because of the construction. Single lane coming inbound between the Parkway off-ramp and the intersection of the Liberty Bridge and the crosstalk. But there's another accident. This one's on Route 28 inbound, about a quarter of a mile from the 910 interchange on the left shoulder of the road, and one vehicle on the right shoulder. Now, state police are on the scene. They have set up some flares. Now, both inbound lanes are moving, but it slows from 910 to the accident scene. Then you have a slowdown as you come into the construction zone at the RIDC. After you get beyond the bend at Blawnox, it's wide open to the north side. Parkway East delay is by the Wilkinsburg on-ramp. The Parkway West is at Banksville. So far, I-279 remains clear, and starting to see some buildups on 51 around Maytide and 88, and stop and go toward the Liberty tunnels. We had a pretty sunrise this morning, Michelle. I'm going to enjoy it from up here, and meantime, send it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Checking the headlines now for those of you just joining us this morning. The daycare center worker who was supervising this little girl the day she was left in a hot van has been charged with reckless endangerment. And hundreds gather for a memorial service for Munhall firefighter William Marks. He will be buried today. On our World Outlook this morning, fears the fighting in Croatia could spread. There are reports of large movements of Bosnian Serb troops toward the Croatian border this morning. UN observers say the Serbs may be planning to retaliate after thousands of Serbs were forced to flee Croatia over the past 3 days. 10 people are still in the hospital, overcome by carbon monoxide in a motel in Virginia Beach, Virginia. The fumes sickened 40 guests at the Emerald Isle Inn over the weekend. Guests began complaining about headaches late Sunday night. One child is in serious condition. An out-of-control wildfire continues to threaten homes and wildlife near Palm Springs, California. Fire officials say the blaze has blackened 23,000 acres since it began on Friday. It's threatening wilderness areas that house bighorn sheep and the California spotted owl. More trouble for Californians this morning. 1,000 people are still out of their homes in a Los Angeles suburb because of an ammonia leak. 6 people suffered breathing problems. The ammonia leak occurred at a frozen food plant. The defense says it's the biggest ruling in their favor so far in the O.J. Simpson case. Jerry Giordano reports on some controversial tapes.
An appeals court in North Carolina ruled screenwriter Laura Hart McKinney not only has to testify in the Simpson case, but also has to release tapes and transcripts made during an interview with Detective Mark Furman. The defense plans to use this to impeach Furman, who testified he had not used a certain racial slur in the past 10 years. Johnny Cochran called it the most important ruling in the case so far.
It's his voice. I've heard his voice. It's statements that directly impeach what he says. And it also goes to implicating people falsely and that sort of thing. So these are the kind of things we'll be looking at. Now, I think that's very relevant from the standpoint of impeachment.
Meantime, defense DNA expert Dr. John Gerdes wrapped up his testimony and seemed to waver on his assessment of the DNA test results.
Isn't it in fact the case that if there's an RFLP match on a sample, in your opinion, that validates the PCR result on that sample?
It can.
Haven't you previously testified that it does?
I probably have in the past, yes.
Still, Gerdes held firm his assertions that no matter how many labs did the DNA testing, it wouldn't matter because evidence was tainted from the very beginning.
Does the reliability of a PCR-based technique depend on the standards and the quality of the lab that's using the technique?
Absolutely.
Then the defense attempted to water down the mind-boggling odds that point the finger at O.J. Simpson. A professor of statistics from Berkeley told the court the numbers given by the prosecution are overblown because analysts did not factor in an error rate. That statistician, meantime, will be back on the witness stand when testimony resumes here Tuesday morning. I'm Jerry Giordano reporting in Los Angeles for ABC News.
Welfare reform is a hot topic this week on Capitol Hill. Mary Miller reports on the Senate's progress.
Medicare.
It's been a partisan debate from the start, with no reason to think it'll be any different today. Under consideration is a welfare reform proposal crafted by the majority leader.
This is not about presidential politics. It's about welfare, about work, about opportunity, and about changing a failed system.
Dole's prescription for change would curb spending by $70 billion over 7 years, turn welfare programs like cash payments, job training, and child care into block grants for the states to administer, require teen mothers to live at home to get benefits, and limit benefits to 5 years over a lifetime. But critics are coming from the right and left. Dole's presidential rival, Phil Gramm, wants stricter work requirements, a cutoff of benefits to single teen moms who keep having children, and tougher restrictions on aid to immigrants, and isn't a bit worried about appearing mean-spirited.
If you're going to solve a problem like welfare, you've got to be tough enough to be willing to stand up and fight when fighting is the right thing to do.
Democrats, meanwhile, don't like Dole's bill either, wanting more money for job training and child care.
The Dole welfare proposal, as I read it, is almost a perfect political partnership between the hard-headed and the cold-hearted.
Whatever the Senate passes has to be reconciled with what the House approved last March, but there's little question some major changes to the 60-year-old welfare system are in store. Mary Miller, Capitol Hill.
A new test that could be a lifesaver for women. That story in HealthCast when we come right back.